Got to be on your best behaviour now. Right.
Right, I'm sure I've met you all before at some point, but I'll introduce myself. I'm Sarah McDonald. I am new to Hallam now. I've got a job here permanently, so I'll be starting here in June. Yay, you're all saying. At the moment, I'm back on S3 as an educator, so I might see some of you around Children's Hospital if you're around. I've pinched this on Roger, evidence-based practice session. It is kind of a bit more PowerPoint than I usually like, but it's a lecture, hence why we're all sat in the lecture theatre. So we'll try and make it as interactive as we can. Is that all right? I don't want anyone to fall asleep. All right? Try my best. Okay. Has anyone had a chance to look at kind of what we're doing today? Anyone had a little look? You've had a... we're looking at service user involvement. And because it's evidence-based care, we're going to try and steer away from the ethical side of it. We're going to try and look at actually what happens in practice and share our experiences of actually what the NMC say, what the Department of Health say, how things are happening and changing for children's nursing. Okay, so it's going to be more sort of focused on policies and things like that rather than, we will have a little chat about ethics. So the aim of this is to have an awareness of the level of service user involvement in paediatric nursing and the implications for our future practice. And I think in this room we've probably had lots of different experiences with this, so we'll have a little chat about that. I haven't got my clicker either, so I have to keep walking behind here. Okay, so these are our objectives, what we're going to do. We're going to understand the evidence base, because it's evidence-based practice, around service user involvement. Okay, we're going to look at the experiences of everybody in this room and see if we can share some ideas, and to look at how we can apply those principles when you're back in practice, because it's big on the agenda, more so in adults, but it's happening within paediatric nursing, so it's an important thing for us to look at. So this is one of Roger's slides, I don't know if you can see it. So we're going to talk a bit about autonomy. Now, as everyone, I'm sure everyone's read the new NMC guidelines back to back, haven't you? But autonomy is a big word in nursing, isn't it? What does it actually mean? Does anybody know what that word actually means? To be autonomous, what does that mean? Choice. Your own choice, yeah. Is there any more you can add to that? So it's your own choice, so you're deciding something, but is there anything else that you need to know to make those choices?
Informed decisions.
Yeah, so making your own choice, but making an informed choice, so you will have an awareness, because sometimes people can make decisions but they don't actually have the facts there, so is that being autonomous? So we'll talk a little bit more about this. This is the official definition of autonomy. So it's the right for patients to make decisions about their medical care, so that's brilliant, without the healthcare provider trying to influence the decision. Patient autonomy does allow for healthcare providers to educate the patient, because again, you need to educate someone for them to make an informed choice about their care. It doesn't allow them to make the decision for the patient, so that can be a little bit tricky sometimes, can't it? If your ideas conflict with that of the patient, they're not autonomous anymore because they're not making that decision for themselves. This is all on Blackboard, so you'll be able to access the slides on there if you need to. So I want to look at now are these things. So how do the actions of the healthcare system and staff impact upon autonomy? Do they have an impact? Do what we do out in practice, does that have an effect on whether the patient is autonomous or not? What do you think? Are you aware that you're promoting autonomy? Put it this way, if you've got a patient who is 14, 15, and you're going to do an admission, who do you ask the questions when you're doing admission, when you're filling in the paperwork? Do you ask the parents or do you ask the child? Child. It's difficult, isn't it? Because at different ages, if it was a 6-year-old, who would you ask? Parent probably. So it's using the parent and the child, and figuring out who actually has the autonomy. So, you know, we make those decisions, don't we? We decide who we're asking the questions to, and sometimes it might be more appropriate to ask the parents, sometimes it's more appropriate, particularly with a teenager. And what if their ideas conflict? What if the parent wants something that the teenager doesn't want? What's our role in that?
Did you bring competency in? Like, if we get it competent to make decisions about themselves?
Yeah, exactly. And we'll explore a little bit later about children and how they can exercise that autonomy, because it's tricky, isn't it? Because of the Gillick competence, do they have the knowledge and skills and cognition to actually agree to treatment, or do they not? I mean, we're not going to get too deep into the ethics side of it because that's a whole different seminar. But just something to think about is obviously, you know, the actions that we have, the things that we do can affect how autonomous a patient can be. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, this is where it gets to be lots of words, okay, so just bear with me. It's overwhelming, the drive, basically, for patient, service user, carer. There's lots of different ways of putting it. Basically, it's involving patients, not only in the delivery of the care, but the planning of it, the development of curriculums for nursing programs. You know, now service users, which are patients, parents, are involved in a lot of the planning and strategic planning as well of healthcare and programs of healthcare. So adults is very different because they are very autonomous, aren't they? Unless you're going into that whole competency thing with the Mental Health Act and things like that. So adults, it's kind of quite clear cut, and it's kind of always been promoted within the adult side, but children are a bit different, isn't it? Because adults are making decisions that affect children. And children have a right to say what they think should happen and their opinions taken into account. That's like the human rights, basically, of a child. So even if you are asking a parent, you've still got to involve that child. They have a right to say what they want to happen with them, okay? UK National Service Framework for Children and Young People, I'm sure you've all read this back to back. This again is, I've put it as a link onto Blackboard, but again, it requires services to give children and young people and their parents increased information, power and choice over the support and treatment they receive and involvement in planning their care and services. That's the Department of Health. So you've got really sort of strategic, important papers and drivers for this to go forward, particularly for children and young people at the moment. And services need to be shaped and responsive to children, young people and families, and not designed around professional boundaries. Again, that's quite tricky, isn't it? Yeah. It's not always easy to provide the service that somebody wants within the constraints of resources and things like that. Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Okay, good old NMC. We always bring the NMC into these things, don't we? And the NMC, they do these standards for competence for a registered nurse. So when you're all registered nurses, you'll be reading this back to back, I'm sure, at bedtime, so you know it. And the NMC say that as nurses we need to work in partnership with other health and social care professionals, agencies, service users, carers and families to ensure that decisions about care are shared. Do we do that, do you think? When we're admitting a patient and we're writing care plans, everyone's familiar with writing a care plan by now? Yeah. Do we actually ask the parents what their plan of care is? What they think it should be? Do we actually get the care plans out with the parents and say this is what we're doing? Not really, do we? It's kind of a nursing thing. Well, actually, the whole idea is that we should be sharing that care. I know I've looked after patients before, particularly the ones with severe special needs. I don't know if anyone else has come across. They have like a book and it's got absolutely everything, from feeding to toileting to everything, and that is their care plan. And I always follow that shared care, because that's what that child's really like at home. That parent knows exactly what that child needs, and you're sharing that information. But it doesn't happen with, usually does it, when we're admitting patients? That's maybe something to think about. Work in partnership with service users, carers, groups, community organisations, manage risk, promote health and well-being, aiming to empower choices that promote self-care and safety. So has anybody sort of got that idea at the moment that this is the drive, that we're trying to educate people to look after themselves better? Yeah, you get that feeling in the media and these health initiatives that are coming out. But I'm trying to encourage service users not only to be involved in planning their care, but to take responsibility for it, yeah, and to help us to promote their self-care. A lot of the adult side of things is now in the community, and I know it's very different for children's nursing. So again, more words, I do apologise, but these are the things we've got to do according to the NMC. Work with the child, make them actively involved in decision making to maintain their independence and take account of their ongoing intellectual, physical and emotional needs. I think we're quite good at doing that as children's nurses. I don't think we're too bad. But do we actively involve them in decision making, or do we ask the parents? What do you think?
Have one already.
And sometimes I think it depends on not only their age but their emotional age. You know, you have children that are 10 that are very emotionally bright and they understand consequences of things and can make decisions, but you have older teenagers that are quite happy to let the parents make all the decisions. But you wouldn't know that, would you, until you were actively involved in that, until you actually spoke, because that's why we do family-centred care. Yeah, so we're involving everybody within that unit. Make sure they understand their healthcare needs and can contribute to informed choices. Again, we've said that, haven't we? Work effectively with young people who have continuing health needs, their families, multidisciplinary team. Smooth, effective transition from children's to adult services. Have you done anything on this yet? The transition from paediatric to adult services. In most trusts that you will work in, there will be a policy for this. And the transition from children going to adult services is a major thing for a lot of kids, particularly ones that have got these continuing health needs. You know, cystic fibrosis, cerebral palsy, osteogenesis imperfecta, you name it. You know, all these conditions that are lifelong conditions. And it's usually from the age of about 14, you might think, gosh, that's really young. But if you think that transition, they've gone from having services within the community, within a children's ward or a children's hospital, and then suddenly they're out into the adult world and they're treated like an adult, and those services might be completely different. So again, that transition needs a lot of planning, and that's where this family-centred care and this involvement in decision-making is crucial. Again, that's another session. Okay, again, this is the new code for the NMC, and I'm sure you've all read this back to back, haven't you? This is one of the major things in the NMC. The new code wants people to listen and respond to their preferences. So working in partnership, recognise the contribution that they can make to their health and well-being, encourage and empower them to make decisions, respect the level to which people are receiving their care, support the person's right to accept or refuse care. Anyone come across that? Yeah? What circumstance was that?
I was on a strain and a girl was having she was said to have spinal fusion, she was scoliosis. And she was about, I think she was like 13, 14. And she got really, really scared at the last minute, like literally the morning that she was meant to have it, and she decided that she absolutely didn't want it under any circumstances. And her mum and dad really, really did want her to have it, so they started this kind of big argument. And obviously in the end, we went and got the child launched and she didn't have it, and they rang that afternoon to reschedule it, and the waiting list was like 2 months or something like that before she could get in again.
It is difficult, isn't it? And you're right, that sometimes, did she make that decision because emotionally it was the thought of going to the
she was really panicked last minute. She was absolutely fine leading up to it, and then I think they just came up to the pre-meds and things, and she just backed out. She really, really panicked.
But then her wishes were granted, weren't they? You know, and it's that balance, isn't it, between, you know, do you force a child to go and have surgery when they're actually confidently saying that they want to have it?
Yeah.
But then again, did the surgeon go in, a nurse go in?
Yeah, everyone went in and tried to talk it through with her, and she was just absolutely adamant. But I think it's just the last minute thing, because of her age and because she did understand fully what was going to happen. We had to go along with what she said, even though it was clear that she was just frightened. Because even after hours of trying to talk back into it, she was adamant that she was going to leave. And then it was something like 3 hours later that they called up again, that the waiting was absolutely huge.
Yeah, sure. yeah, you know, it does happen, and you've got to you've got obviously that will have been documented.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and everybody will have been involved in that, you know, not in that sense of trying to persuade that patient to have that surgery, because that's her decision at the end of the day, but make an informed choice. Are you refusing this now because you're just getting in a panic and your emotions are taking over? Are you actually becoming emotionally charged and this is what's stopping you from having this operation? Or are you making an informed decision and actually thought about it? Clearly, she needed some time just to rethink it, didn't she? But that's our job, is to respect and support that, you know. That's obviously, you know, all those services that were in place for that child to have that operation. Gosh, there would have been an HDU bed booked, there would have been surgeons ready, but you know, at the end of the day, the patient's more important, aren't they? Recognise when people are anxious, and it comes up to this next one, doesn't it, or in distress, and respond compassionately and politely. I'd really, really like to think that everyone in this room would do that. I think you wouldn't be sat in this room if you weren't this type of person, would you? Okie dokie. Clinical governance. Yay, you're all going, yeah, clinical governance. Does anybody actually know what clinical governance is? It's a word that everyone knows and heard of, but can't actually put it out into words. Can anyone tell me what clinical governance is? Have a stab. No. It's really hard to put in words. I'll tell you. It's a framework, okay? The NHS organisations use this framework to provide quality services and prevent and to promote safeguarding. Basically, I'll go through it in a bit more detail. It's a framework. If you just remember the word framework, okay? There's lots of different bits that come off clinical governance, and it's ensuring quality. That is the heart of it, okay? It ensures you're giving quality services. And one of the key issues in it is service user involvement. So this is where this originates from, yeah? Anybody read anything on the Bristol inquiry? Does anybody know what that was? You heard of it?
Is that the baby one?
It was a surgery, yeah, the children's heart surgery. Again, I've put a link on Blackboard for this if you want to read about it. There were recommendations from here that basically identified the need for involvement from children. There was an incident in Bristol where there was just unacceptable quality care given to children that were having heart surgery. There was a big inquiry and lots of recommendations from that, and one of them was that children need to be involved in their care. They need to have a say and be involved in decision making. And the Department of Health, in their social care standards and planning, they said that one of the priorities was putting service user experience at the centre of the health service. So again, remember I said there's these drivers, so there's these Bristol inquiry, the Department of Health are pushing for this. Lord Darcy, High Quality Care for All in 2008, wanted to change at a local level and partnership with the patients and staff. And we'll talk a bit about how this is implemented in a minute. Okay? How do we actually implement this? So that's great, all these people saying these things, but how do we actually implement that? What happens in practice? Okay. Who is the service user? I talked a bit about this, haven't we? Who is it?
Child and parents.
Yeah. Some of us are service users, aren't we? Yeah. Goes to the GP. Sometimes go to the doctor. Sometimes have outpatient appointments for things. Most people have some kind of input into the NHS, don't they? In some form or other. So it could be anybody really. It's all of us, isn't it? But most people we're talking about is the families, the carers, the children. They're the service users. They're the people that are using NHS as a service. Okay, this is where you've got to do some talking. Alright. So, experiences of this? I know we've touched on this, haven't we? Who was involved in the care and care planning? What experience have people had? So we've said the older children, we generally ask them, would we? A little bit of mum and dad there. Younger children, we probably ask the parent. Is that most people's experience? Yeah. What extent were parents in partnership with the nurses? Did you sit with the care plans and say, okay, while you're in, we're going to do blah, 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 blah. What do you want to happen? What do you want from this submission? Do we ask the parents that? No, not really. I think in my experience, it's usually I'd say the patients that were regular service users that probably are in more partnership with me when I'm doing care, because those parents know a hell of a lot more about those conditions in that child than I do, because they look after that child every day. They might come in with an acute problem, but the overall care, feeds and everything else going on, those parents know that child inside out, and it's our job to try and say, well, how do they express pain? And you really are working in partnership with that parent, because if you didn't have that parent there, you wouldn't have a clue. But then there's other parents that child's admitted, you do your admission and they're off, and you've left with the child there, aren't you? So you're not really using much partnership work in there, are you, with the parent, and they're not actually physically there. And so this bit, what extent were they being used? Do you think we use parents, or do you think that we use them as part of the care planning and we need them there to share care? Or do you think it's quite helpful that they're there to do the jobs that they're supposed to be doing? What do you think about that?
It sounds horrible when you basically, if they can do like the care, like nappy changes and stuff, and getting the children dressed, if you've got a brilliant thing to do, it can help. I mean, that child can more of a, like a routine that they're in at home, rather than waiting for you to have the spare time to go get them up and dressed.
And that's reasonable, isn't it? If I'm in hospital with my child, I just don't want to sit in there and let the nurse do everything. That's my child. So that's where the shared care comes in. You should be saying to the parents, right, okay, are you okay dealing with the basic needs, the feeding, the nappy changing, and obviously I'll inform you if any drugs are due, and that kind of thing. So it's that shared approach. I think sometimes we do things and because we're so what's the word, like robotic at doing things, like observations and things, we forget that the parents sat there probably bewildered, haven't got a clue half the time what's going on. So it's just sometimes that I think that we expect things from parents, but they're not sure what to expect from us, so it's just sharing that with them. And it's how is autonomy promoted and whose autonomy? Again, we've talked about this, haven't we? Is it are we promoting the autonomy of the parent or the child or a mixture of both?
In the end, it's a lot of parents who have to make the decisions, especially like when, I know like when I experienced it, there were a lot of like babies who were critically ill, as soon as they come in, it was like the mum's decision whether they wanted to carry on, whether they wanted them raised to come, or whether they just wanted like,
And that is patient autonomy in the sense that child obviously is not capable of being autonomous, and that you promote that autonomy in that parent. It gets to a grey area, doesn't it, when we're getting to children that have got an awareness of what's going on and can make decisions, and when sometimes you've got the parent there that's not agreeing with that decision. That's the tricky bit, I think. And then it's whose autonomy you're promoting. How do you promote parent and child autonomy? How do you think we'd get over that?
I think it's a balance between the age of your child, because also, for example, if you have got a child that's really young, for example, you've got a toddler and there's something wrong with them and the parents are making a decision that medically wasn't right for the child, then you'd have to step in and make that decision on behalf of the parents anyway. So I think it's kind of a balance between you kind of knowing like anatomically what care the child needs, the parents then deciding if that's the things they want, but as the child grows up also tying in what they want. I think you need a big medium.
Yeah, and that's perfect. That's what I was getting at, is that it's all of you. You've all got to make that decision together. And like we go back to the beginning, and we said that if you give people the information. Parents sometimes make decisions based on, they don't know the facts. That's our job, to present them with the facts. We can suggest that, you know, this is the way forward, this is, you know, but you can't force a parent to do something. It's their, you know, it's their decision, unless you're right, it's to the detriment of the child, and then that's a whole new pathway you have to go down. Good. Getting really ethical now, aren't we? Okay, so we've talked about, yeah, this is what the Department of Health wants to do, this is what the NMC are telling us we want to do, but there are challenges to this, isn't there? For the reasons why we've talked about just now, it's assumed that children are not competent to offer a legitimate viewpoint in their experience of healthcare services. 2004-2001, so a little bit, sort of 10 years or so ago, data by Glasper and Field, but this is what the assumption is, that children just, they're not competent to offer that solution, to give a viewpoint on their experience. Is this true? I don't know. Let's look at this, don't we? So, when we're talking about service user involvement, and like I said, it's not just the patients on the ward and asking what their needs are, and it goes right back to actually planning healthcare, strategically planning it. Your BSc has service user involvement in the planning of that curriculum, because they tell us what they think that you as nurses need to know to look after them. Does that make sense? Yeah? So this is one way of doing it. Has everyone heard of PALS, Patient Liaison? Yeah? Lovely Linda Towers at the Children's Hospital, and I think a lot of the other DGHs will have one, particularly for like the adult services. The Commission for Patient Public Involvement in Health, PPI, it's not putting a claim in, it's, you know, gives a public voice through PALS. So there should be a person allocated purely to be that spokesperson for the service user. The difficulty there is that they're usually employed by the trust, but they are there as the patient voice. And has anyone had experiences where they've had a patient or a family that are very happy, they want to discuss things, and they just need another person that's just a bit more sort of away from the ward area or community? Anyone experienced that? You ring up and thinking, can we talk to these parents? I've had quite a lot. If parents aren't happy, you know, they've been transferred from another hospital and they want to go back, but we can only provide that service, and you know, there's lots of different reasons. That's to give them a voice, basically. And local involvement as well. There'll be stuff in the community. I don't know what there is in Sheffield, but there will be community groups that come together to talk about service user involvement. I go to a meeting to do with curriculum planning and placements, and there's a service user that sits on that and has her input into that. Picker Institute. Has anyone had one of these questionnaires through from Picker Institute? I have. There must be some kind, like a big, obviously, institute that does a lot of things on quality and sends audits and questionnaires and things out. And they work with patients, professionals and policy makers to promote patient experience. So I've had I've been an inpatient, so I've had this questionnaire through. How did you feel about this doctor? Would you care this? Would you care that? And they feed back to the CQC. Has anyone heard of the CQC?
Care Quality Commission.
Yes, Care Quality Commission. Does everybody know what they do? Tell me what they do. What do they do, apart from scaring the life out of you?
They come in to check that you're basically abiding by the standards and the laws that you should do.
Absolutely. Were you involved in the CQC when they came around this time around? A little group of students to ask you about your experiences. Because obviously, you know, you need to find this information out and find out how people are feeling about things, and the way to do that is questionnaires and things like that, isn't it? And little, you know, groups. And they have a big influence, this Picker Institute. They form part of the quality core standards for the CQC. It's all about quality. Okay, these are the things apparently that we need for the involvement of the child. We need to think think these things through carefully, don't we? So we need to give them the opportunity to take part in consultation. Do we always do that? We kind of talked about that sometimes, not as much. Outreach, so through schools and social media. See, I've had to get on board with this Twitter thing, and I have to get on Facebook, but my goodness, kids now, social media, they live their lives to it, don't they? I'm sure a lot of you do as well. It's changing the mindset of, all those old fuddy-duddies and trying to get with how do you reach that person? How do you get their ideas? And a lot of it is through schools and social media. Make things easy to understand for children. So, when we do our discharge booklets, when we're discharging a patient home, who do we give that information to? Is it parent? Is it the child? Is it both? Depends. What we're looking for. That booklet usually is aimed at the parent, isn't it? The writing in there, there's a little bit of jargon, it's usually sort of plain English. But some places give booklets totally designed for children so they can understand what's going on. I think that's probably a really good way to push forward that and make them feel confident. Yeah. A variety of approaches, so not just one approach, use a lot of different approaches and ensure children are given feedback and they understand their potential to influence strategic health decision making and make them feel valued. We'll just look at that. There are some examples of really good practice out there, and I wasn't aware of some of these things, but it's given me an insight to think, do you know what? I could introduce that where I'm working. So it might be that what we're doing at the moment is not quite got there yet, but we might have an influence on making sure that children do have a say in what happens, and I'll show you in a minute. Right. But the evidence from the past shows that children tend to be consulted in their needs rather than on the service, commission and delivery. So remember I said it's not just about looking after the child when they're in hospital or in the community, it's about actually how you plan and do that care. And that's when we want service users to be involved and children involved, not just at the time they're being looked after, but how we actually deliver that. 28% of local health plans analysed mention children and young people's participation. Of these, children have been consulted to understand their needs in relation to CAMHS. Everyone know what CAMHS is? Child and Adolescent Mental Health, yeah? And the transition from children to adult services. And again, that's something to look at. That's a big thing, transitioning to adult services. To make existing services more child-friendly and improve access, for inspection of services and service configuration, and to take part in the selection of contractors. Blimey. Imagine a child sat on the camp room, imagine dragons down there. But there are things happening, but again, 28% of local health plans don't really, that's not really good enough number, is it? We need more. Okay. Let's see if this works. This is Roger's little.
A specialist team leader. If you come into hospital, you might meet me or someone like me. We work with the children of all ages to help you understand what happens in a hospital. We help the nurses to look after you at the times when your family can't be there, and we make sure that there are lots of things to do so that no one feels left out. We'll be there to play games with you, have a chat, bring you some toys and lots of other fun things. When Kevin was in hospital, he and some of the friends he made drew some pictures about the things they liked and some of the things they didn't. Darcy and Ellie wanted to show how much the nurses helped them in getting better. Whilst Maisie and Boessa drew their likes and dislikes around the medicine they took. Sydney liked the food, so she drew a picture of a jacket potato. Kieran and Rosie drew of the treatment they received. And Leon drew a picture of the fun he had with the video games.
One day I had to go to hospital and needed to get better. I was a bit worried because I didn't know what to expect. but instead I made lots of new friends with the other children who were here, and we shared stories and drew pictures.
Many of the children found lots of things to do, like watching the ambulances arrive with their blue flashing lights and making new friends. But most of all, everyone liked to see the helicopter. If you ever come to hospital, don't forget to look out for a member of the play team. We're here to be your friend and speak up for you.
Sorry, Charles, a bit deaf. So that was Leeds Teaching Hospital. So that's a video that they post on their website, I think, for children that come into hospital, and I think it's really quite child friendly, and it kind of shows you, there's pictures there of children. That's their feedback. We hate the food, we hate needles, and we hate medicine, but we like the nurses. So we can't do anything about the needles and medicine, can we? But that's taking into account what they think, what the things that they enjoy, and again, that's feeding that back to patients that will be coming in, and I think that's really quite a good idea. Do we do that wherever we work? I don't think we do in my trust. Just to let you know, there are a few good things happening out there that we could probably take example from. This is a Make It Better consultation that involved over 22,000 children. And basically, it got them involved in all sorts of things. So the stakeholders were there, they made proposals and recommendations to reconfigure their local health services. And they were shaped by and including the children, which is amazing really, isn't it? Because if you could use the service user to shape how those funds are given, because, are we putting funds into things that service users don't want, don't need? So using the local communities as well, youth clubs, schools, scouts, think about the bigger picture where children are, not just in hospital, with brownies, scouts, playgroups, finding out what their needs are. Milton Keynes University Hospital. And these are the things that obviously children find really important, particularly mine. Access to Wi-Fi. Gosh, if you can't get Wi-Fi or your TV's not working, and you think, God, my TV's not working. But to children, that's probably one of the most important things is stimulation, having something to watch, something familiar. So Wi-Fi, access. One of the suggestions made by children and their parents in this consultation that they had. And it made the hospital more colourful, child-friendly, looking at artwork, curtains, bedding, reminding staff children like to see them smiling, so looking at books, additional training was recognised, reviewing written information for parents, so again, do parents actually understand the booklets we're giving them to go on discharge, because again, they'll be reading that when they get home. More fruit for children, I can't believe they've actually said this, but more fruit for children in hospital, and viewing their menu. Anybody had patients that have just gone for their food? Unless we get feedback from them and say your food's disgusting, not a lot we can do about it. But that's a really good example of children having a massive influence on their care, how they're looked after. This is a bit more literature really on service user involvement. Remember I said earlier about nursing courses? Yeah? Your course that you're on now, that's being influenced by service users. They like saying that. I can't remember what this is called. Canterbury? What do you call this? Christchurch, Canterbury Christchurch University, I can't get that right. CCCU in Kent. They developed a new curriculum in collaboration with the young people from the hospice. That would be great, wouldn't it, if we could do that and actually find out what they want us to know, what they want us to be like, what they want us to deliver to them. And the key things that came from that is communication, making time to listen, access to mainstream education. Anybody been in a hospital where the teacher comes round with the clipboards? Yeah. Another really important aspect, isn't it? Just because someone's in hospital doesn't mean that they want to give up that education. And it does amaze me actually, because I'd have thought that children would think, yes, I've got a teacher for a bit, but actually that's what they were saying they wanted. Transition to adult services again, big thing. I suggest you have a look at that. You've got 5 minutes, a bit of bedtime reading for you. Going clubbing. Now this doesn't mean going to the lead mill. This going clubbing, I think, is referring to just basically looking at that patient as a whole. So promoting physical, social development. So it's not just looking at the physical ill health while they're in hospital, it's allowing them to live, go clubbing, have a life. This ecological model of care. So again, we kind of stick to these medical models of care, don't we? The doctors tend to, where this is your illness, this is how we treat it. We look at the social side of it, so we look at like, doing admission, what you normally like, what's your development like, what your likes, dislikes. Really what we need to do is have a whole view, an ecological view of that patient, so taking aside, medical, psychological, sociological, all that needs to be taken into account. Don't fall asleep, I'm nearly done. Okay, so then, what application of any of these examples have you to your future practice? How could your experience have been improved? So, we don't actually know what application do any of these examples have to your future practice. Okay. What this is trying to say is basically, we've looked at all these good examples. Has anyone had anything, any input like that you can think of in your practice that's actually affected patient care? It might do as you're getting more sort of more experience throughout your nursing. I have, because I've been nursing for years, but things that children feed back to you that are important, things like, when I first qualified, which is quite a long time ago, but we used to have one TV in the corner of the room for a bay of 6 patients. Now you imagine that was a nightmare. We had 4 channels and they all used to fight over what we were going to watch. You might have a 16-year-old next to a 4-year-old next to a baby. And you're all thinking, but think how important that is to children when they're in hospital. My kids would, I don't know what they'd do without an iPad or something to watch, just how it is. And from that, it developed where we've got, each child has a TV. We used to have you won't believe this, we used to have a TV, a massive TV on a trolley that's rolling, and we had a thing to say, right, you can have it for half an hour, and so-and-so, and so-and-so, and so-and-so. That's how bad it was. You can imagine, I haven't finished watching your programme, well, so-and-so in that bed, I'm really along to that bed, that's sure. Things have changed so much, because that's not what patients want, that's not what kids want. They need distraction, they need stimulation, and that when the teachers aren't there, they need something to do, don't they? We've got play specialists, they play a massive part now, particularly on the ward I'm on. Fantastic, preventing boredom, and you think about preventing boredom and distracting a child and keeping them happy, that helps with pain, it helps with anxiety, it helps them get discharged quicker, parents are happier, helps us, doesn't it? Helps our job, makes our job easier. Anyone had a bad experience where patients complained? No one's had a bad experience where a patient complained about food or anything like that, yeah? How could it have been improved? Has anyone gone to a patient with, I know I keep saying at the Children's Hospital, but we have pink cars. Car parking, any parent's gone, oh, I can't park, it's a nightmare. Here's a pink form, fill this in, that's your feedback. And from that, they're now building a multi-storey car park at the Children's Hospital. So it does make a difference. It might not happen straight away, but getting their opinions, and I'm sure on most areas that you'll work, there'll be somewhere, it might be hidden in the corner and have dust gathering on it, but some kind of feedback form for parents and children, encourage them to feedback if it's a problem that they've got, that's a system problem or an organisational problem that you personally can't do anything about. Get them to give that feedback, because that influence might influence and drive the whole system. Does that make sense? Okay, so to summarise, we have looked at the service user agenda. We've shared some experience. Look, me, I'm not talking, so I've shared my experiences. Looked at areas of good practice. So we've looked at some of the areas and think actually they're really good ideas, maybe we could use that. I personally like the video, what the children have put together, and I think that's something I might put forward to the play specialist. I looked at implications for future practice, so just have a think about when you're doing that admission, who are you asking those questions to? And are you actually informing them so they can make a decision on care? Are you involving them as a family unit, or just asking a parent, or just asking a child? Just have a think about that. I think I'm done. Ta-da! Right, if you could just fill me one of these in before you go, it's just to get feedback on the session. If you can just put either one thing good and one thing bad, or if it was perfect and you can't improve on it, put that, alright? But just give me some feedback on how you think the session went, okay?
I'm hoping there's enough.
You can pass some back as well, I'm hoping I've got enough. And if you want to just stick them on this table when you've done, and then you're free to go.